Good evening, everyone. This will be the first tutorial of our React series, and we will be actually getting up started with the React setup, and we'll be creating something interesting with the React for the first setup. And let's actually get started without any further delay. So this is our Visual Studio Code, and let's actually create for a folder, right? So for the ones who are actually initials or say basic ones, or say the beginners like me, I can actually get started from the scratch for the React projects and how to actually create stuffs with the React. So what you need to do is that you have to firstly install the Node.js from the website itself. So I will actually get onto the Node.js website in a second, just a second. So you have to just type on the internet, that is Node.js, and the first link will actually take you to the Node.js website only, right? Something like this. And the Node.js actually comes with two, say, create React app. That actually creates that whole template for the React applications for you guys, right? So it's actually a handy tool. There is nothing like that. You want the create React app tool always to actually create your React application. You can yourself also install the packages like say React and React DOM into your project dependencies manually. But yes, it is a handy tool and actually gets you with the right stuff getting started. So yeah, it's a must for the ones who are actually usual with the React projects and want to actually create a React project without any delay. So let me actually go to the Node.js. I already have Node.js installed, right? So I am not installing it again, but yes, you can go ahead to the official site of say Node.js, right? And then can download that Node.js, right, on your system. The LTS one is actually the say the long-term support. LTS actually stand for the long-term support, and it is a version available for download. And along with the Node, you also need to install say create React app. And even if it is actually not installed already, then you will be actually prompted up that Node just wants to install these new packages and all with that create React app, right? And say talking about the React learning stuff, right? You can actually go ahead to the React talk. They are actually nice talks, right? Or you can also follow my tutorial series, which I will be actually following on. So here you can actually install any of the version, right? I will recommend say this one, right? This is actually what I will recommend. And you after you install, you might be able to actually have a look at the Node version by Node minus v, I think. Yes, okay, minus version, I think. Yes, so it will actually show you the version currently installed on your Node system. So yeah, then you can actually use the npx, which is already installed on your system, and then you can actually go ahead for create React app. And this command will actually run the create React app tool behind the scenes, and then you will need to supply the particular name of your project which you actually want to build. So firstly, before actually running this, I will actually go ahead into this particular directory, right? And I will go in this particular directory and I will cd to this directory. Cd, you already might know, it stands for change directory, right? That is, you want to go to that directory, right? But nothing is actually showing up because this is actually D directory. So I will actually need to do this, that is D and colon, and it will actually get me to that directory because it has already done that cd. Now I want to run the npx create React app, and what will be my project name? Maybe say init React. You can keep any name for the project, right? And it will actually go on and will install the dependencies required for the particular project. If the create React app is actually not installed in your system, it will actually prompt that whether you want to install the create React app itself. Otherwise it will actually ask you, otherwise it will actually go on and say install the particular application. So it is actually saying that you are running the create something which is being the latest, which is behind the latest version, supporting. Okay, so it's actually a previous one. Okay, so it's actually asking me to install a new one. Okay, so it's always actually go on with the newest version. So firstly, it's actually asking me to actually remove the already installed version. You can actually install the packages locally and globally. With the global flag, you can actually install the tools or the packages on your system that will be actually saved on your system. Otherwise, in the usual manner, they are actually installed only in your projects, right? When you actually used to do dash save, then they are actually installed in your project only and not in your system. So you will need an internet connection connection to actually install them again. So as you can see, I've already uninstalled my Create React app. So it will be actually similar to what you will face when you will actually go and install the things on your system. So NPX is actually using the Create React app, and as you can see, that nothing is actually asked from you. You can similarly go on and create the Next.js projects, right? Actually doing for the React, and it will take some time and will install some dependencies for the Create React app, or say the project dependencies which are actually required for the React. For letting you know, it will actually install the dependencies like say React and React DOM, right? And let's actually talk a bit about say these dependencies, right? What is React and what is React DOM? So yeah, what's the concept of basics of React, right? So and why the React was actually built and what's the need for React. Let's actually understand some of the basics so that we can actually get some insights that what React is and why it is actually required. So in your HTML structures, right, you have say tree-like structure, right? You have say one node, another node, and you can actually see in a DOM also, like say you have say div, right? You have a particular div, and then other things like h1 nested inside the particular div, and then you used to say nest other things like you used to nest another div also. Firstly, let's actually close this h1, right? My drawing is actually bad, but yes, let's go further for the sake of understanding only, right? And then you have another div and so on, nested and all. So you can already see that this is the top level div. You have say some components of say h1, so you can relate this h1 to this, and then you have say another div which is actually this one, and which might be nesting some more things out there, and you can actually relate it to these nodes. So this is how the nesting actually goes on, and this actually becomes your DOM tree, right? So this actually whole stuff becomes your DOM tree. And what React does is that instead of actually just making changes directly into the DOM, it actually makes a copy of the actual DOM into its virtual memory, right? It actually used to create a virtual copy of whole real DOM into the memory, because doing the changes in the actual DOM takes memory and takes it's actually computationally expensive, right? But doing the changes into the memory are actually faster. So why not to actually first make the changes into the DOM, or say virtual DOM, right? And then you can actually make the final changes into the actual DOM, and that's actually the basic purpose, or say basic concept behind React. So that's what the basic one behind React. And to let you know, the React actually does, or say uses the differing algorithm to actually find the particular changes between one state and another state, right? Between one state and another state, and it used to just paint the final state into the actual DOM. So yeah, that's what the basic of the React. And we used to get two libraries for React. One is actually for the React whole of this logic, and another one is actually for the React DOM, right? When you have the point of actually doing the real changes into the DOM, then you will use a React DOM library, right? Otherwise, all the other works will be actually handled from React, right? So we'll actually get started with the basics itself, right? Basic ground truths itself, and yeah, we will understand together and we'll actually create something. It's actually taking a bit of time. Let me actually pause the video so that it's not too long. By the way, if you wanna actually get started with the React without actually of this installation, then there is another way also. Let me actually get you know. So yeah, you can actually write React getting started, and I prefer W3 schools, right? And it if you will actually go through this particular place, right? So basically we'll need actually two scripts, right, for the React, or say three scripts actually. One is actually for the React, which I was actually telling you. Another is actually for the React DOM, and the next one is actually for the Babel. We will talk about that what a Babel is, and what it does, and why it is actually required, right? So I can actually make another folder, right? That is React Quick Start. Well, you can actually start this way, and this is actually fine for the initial purpose. But yes, you will at the end of the day need to actually install that Create React app application, and yeah, you will need to actually get started with that only. But yes, for the start, we can actually get started to learn the basics, right? We must actually start this way only, right? So that you can actually understand the file structure even, right? So, and also the basics and core concepts of React. This will be fine. So you can actually make say index of HTML, right? And I will actually open it with Sublime Text, right? Like open with and Sublime Text. Just a second. this way here, and whatever I have actually copied, I can actually paste it here. But there is a basic problem with Sublime Text that it can't actually just say highlight the syntax which is actually here, right? Which is actually a JSX format, right? And we'll actually talk about what a JSX is. So you can actually see that you are actually returning a h1 element from a function inside the script tag, and that's actually where how can you actually run a h1 tag. This is what a JSX is. That is JavaScript means XML. X for X actually stands for XML, right? And this is JavaScript all combined together actually makes the JSX. So this is what it is. So it is just a kind of say syntactical sugar and not a real stuff, right? And behind the scenes, what React is doing, or exactly what Babel is doing, is that it is actually transforming these h1 elements into actual objects, right? Which can be actually used by the React. So this is actually doing the same. So this is actually something like that. I think it is a function same name say React. Behind the scenes, what it is doing that it is actually running a particular for loop for whole of this string, which is actually here for the GSX, right? And then what it is actually doing, it's actually creating an element by using React dot create element and something like this, and then h1, and then in the second parameter you have to actually pass the particular children which are actually contained in this h1 element, like means, or there can be more React elements, or say more div or p tags might be there, right, in the h1 element, or say if it was a div there must be nesting now. So it is actually the second, it will actually come for the second argument, and in the third argument you have say hello world, something like that, right? So this is what is actually happening behind the scenes. It is actually creating a particular object only, JavaScript object only behind the scenes. But yes, for the readability, we are actually given the JSX syntax so that it is actually easier to write React elements. Otherwise, you will need to actually write that larger syntax for the React itself, right? So that's actually one the basic one. So what I will prefer is that I can actually just make another script tag, right? Like say script, and then TypeScript. I can actually make us keep a source with say script.js, right? And what was that? That was actually text/babel, right? Right. So that was actually my script name. So if I actually make a script.js here, right? Script.js, something like that. So that will be actually length. And if I actually open this particular directory with VS Code, I have this option of say open with code. So this whole directory will be actually opened with VS Code, right? And I can actually run this particular say HTML file into my browser itself without any issues. Yes, it's actually opened up, loading up, and what is actually loading up is actually loading the React scripts. I think there's some issue. Let's actually see. The same version is also reading the remote file. Okay, so there's some problems. Okay, so let's just for getting started, we can actually write into that script only. No issues. Okay, actually not aligned. Okay, now the things will actually appear. One thing is that I've actually installed a live server here. It's also available in my videos, I think. So yes, you can actually install this live server with the VS Code, and whenever you will actually make an update, like something like this, you will actually have an update here also, right? Something like this, WOLD, something like that. So, and also, I have actually just switched on my autosave options into my preferences. You can actually go to the settings, and then here in the settings, you can actually make another entry like this, that is save on focus loss. That is true. That is, this means that whenever you will have lose your focus from this particular say Sublime Text, then it will actually auto save the things up. And this this is actually an extension of the live reload for Sublime Text, and you can actually easily install it for Firefox or say Chrome, whatever you want. and then you can actually just say sync the settings. One more thing is also required, that is configuring that particular package. You first need to install this library load here in Sublime Text also, and then you need to actually configure a bit of settings. I will tell you that in another video, but yes, the purpose of this video is actually to learn React, right? So what's the basic setup of React? You will need to actually create one particular div element in which the React will actually render whole of the stars which it will create, right? So you can see that this is actually my dev, and we have actually got this my dev by using that document.get element by IE, and then my dev is here, and then you have this document.render, that React DOM.render, and from where this React DOM is coming, React DOM is actually coming from this particular script which we have included, that is React DOM.development.js, and for first element is the one which we want to render, that is our React component, and the second element is the one where we want to render our element. So if you will actually have a look in the inspector, right, you can actually see that the particular this hello world is actually rendered inside that my dev, right? So that's actually the basic purpose. You will first create a particular element in which you want to render your React application, and then you will actually create a particular functional component. I will actually talk about the class component and the function component in detail in the later videos. This is actually just starting to actually get you started with the React projects, and then you can actually render the particular element, that is this particular component with this React DOM.render method. First argument will be actually that component only, and the second argument will be where you want to actually render this particular component. And this particular component is nothing other than a particular JavaScript function, right, in which you have to return something. You can always do some other functions inside the JavaScript functions, like say let a is equal to 100, or variable declaration, for loop, everything is actually allowed. It's just a normal JavaScript function, but whatever you will actually return here, that will be actually appear on screen, and that can be our hello world for the React applications. And also one basic thing to note is that you can also include the JavaScript expressions inside this particular HTML also, right? And that's actually a nicer thing. So let's actually talk about it. So if you have say one particular variable which is actually having a value of say 100, then you can actually include this here. But if you will just include in this way, like a, so it will just show you a, right? It will actually just as a string. It will not recognize that it is a variable. But if you will actually do something like this, that is a, then it will mean that inside the curly braces, whatever it is, just get the value of that particular variable. So it will actually get you a value of 100, and that's actually what is happening here, right? You can also create more functions, like say function component too, right? But the one thing to note is that you must actually use a capital letter for the component name, right? Something like this, otherwise it will have some issues, right? So you can always you need to return something from this particular component, like something like this. And one more thing to consider is that if you will return this way, right, like h2 element and then hello again, right, something like that. If you will do that, then it will actually face problems, right? Because it has a return only on this statement, and it will actually not go for this statement. Let me actually show you that. If I just replace it with comp2, then if I refresh, there is no hello here. There is only comp2, but comp2 has a return from this statement only, and while working in this particular environment, the semicolons are actually just optional, as you might have already seen. So it's actually just assuming that there is a semicolon here and you are not returning it. So what to do in this particular statement? One solution to be can be to just move this particular h2 element upwards, and then you will actually see the particular output, right? Hello again. But if you want to actually move the things downwards, then you can actually use braces. That's how it is, right? You can actually use braces, and then it will work still without any issues, right? In between these braces, you can actually have multiple lines. It will still work without any issues. This is just a kind of say JSX, which can work with, there's no matter of any spacing or all, right? There's no issue for that. But yes, this is the basic stuff for React, right? And yeah, that was actually the basic stuff for this particular React one. You have learned, after this video, you have learned how to actually get started with the React by just using these scripts inside the HTML only, and then just working with the React with these scripts, right? You can always just use those styles and all in the head element and all, right? There is no problem with that, right? Like you can do say say margin 0 pixels. I prefer margin padding. Oh, everything need to be reset. This is what I prefer. Box size with border box, right? And on my main div, what was that div? That was actually my div. So hash my div, and then background color, say hash 5500ff, some purplish color, right? This will actually render. This is actually my color with the min height of say 100 vh, and the color to be say fff, and one short trick to actually center every, this is actually not centered for now, but one short trick to actually center the stuff is actually display grid and place items center. This will actually center your things up. And one more thing which I will actually recommend to you is that keeping the font family to sans serif, right? Because it's actually available in most of the browsers and PCs, right, and systems, right, and also looks better than that. And this whole content will be actually centered vertically and horizontally if you want to just quick solution for your Hello React. And also I must actually instead say Hello React. Okay. So this was actually just a quick tutorial of how you can actually get started with React, and thank you so much for watching. We will actually go on with the next tutorial with more advanced stuff and more interesting stuff, and let's go further.